Deep in the Washington woods, where the mist clings to ancient pines, a lone mail carrier struggles up a muddy track. He's searching for an address that barely exists, carrying a letter for someone who has spent the last year trying to disappear. High above the forest floor, in a small house built among the branches, Sarah starts her morning, unaware that her carefully constructed world is about to be turned upside down. Let's rewind 1 year. Sarah's life was a prison built by her controlling ex-husband, Marcus. He monitored her spending, cut her off from family, and filled their home with a tension so thick her 7-year-old son, Jake, learned to walk on eggshells. His temper was a storm on the horizon, always threatening to break. One desperate night, a phone call from her sister in Washington offered a lifeline. It wasn't much, just an old treehouse on her property, forgotten by time. But to Sarah, it was an escape route. The next day, while Marcus was at work, she packed a single suitcase. With shaking hands, she grabbed Jake, buckled him into the car, and drove 8 hours north without looking back. The treehouse was rustic, more of a shack in the sky than a home. It had a rope ladder, no insulation, and just enough space for 2 small beds. But as Jake looked up at it with wide eyes and asked, "Is this our new house?" Sarah hugged him tight and whispered, "It's our home now." It was small, it was difficult, but it was theirs. And most importantly, it was safe. For 2 weeks, Marcus's name would flash on her phone, his calls filled with threats and demands. Then, abruptly, they stopped. A few days later, the news came. Marcus had died in a car accident. Sarah didn't know what to feel. There was no sadness, but there was no celebration either. Just a quiet, complicated emptiness and the dawning realization that they were truly free. The first few months were a blur of survival. Sarah found remote work as a freelance bookkeeper, her earnings barely covering the small rent she paid her sister. The Pacific Northwest winter was unforgiving. They huddled under blankets in the uninsulated treehouse, the cold seeping through the wooden planks. They cooked simple meals on a single hot plate and read by the soft glow of lantern light. Despite the hardship, something incredible was happening. The constant fear that had shadowed their lives began to fade. Jake started to laugh more freely. He attended the local school, no longer having to tiptoe around a parent's unpredictable moods. Sarah, in the quiet moments after Jake fell asleep, felt a slow, steady healing take root. The neighbors thought she was a bit strange, the woman living in a treehouse, but they mostly left her and her son in peace. By the 10th month, the treehouse had transformed. It was no longer just a shelter. It was a home, filled with warmth and love. They'd hauled second-hand furniture up the ladder piece by piece. String lights crisscrossed the ceiling, casting a magical glow over the small space. Jake's colorful drawings were taped to the walls, and he'd made a good friend at school. Sarah had enrolled in online courses to get her accounting certification, investing in a future she was building entirely on her own terms. She deleted her social media, changed her number, and severed every tie to her old life. This quiet, hidden existence was exactly what she wanted. Their evenings settled into a peaceful rhythm, a pot of soup simmering on the hot plate, the gentle scratch of Jake's pencil as he did his homework, and a deep contentment she hadn't felt in years. She had made peace with starting from nothing. Then, 1 year and 3 days after they first arrived, the mail carrier made his rare journey up their dirt road. He climbed the ladder and handed her a certified letter. Her heart pounded in her chest. The envelope was thick and official, bearing the name Consolidated Life Insurance Company. Was it a bill? A mistake? Her hands trembled as she took it inside, waiting until Jake was at school before daring to open it. She sat on her bed, the rain pattering softly on the roof, and slit the envelope open. The words on the page swam before her eyes. It was a letter regarding a life insurance policy taken out by Marcus through his employer. The death benefit was for $3.5 million. Her breath caught in her throat. She read the beneficiary's name over and over. Sarah Martinez. Her maiden name. A name she hadn't used in years. The policy was dated 10 years ago, back when they were young and in love, long before the darkness crept in. He had never changed it. The insurance company had been searching for her for 11 months, an investigator's note explained, finally tracking her down through her sister's property records. Sarah sat in stunned silence. Why? Why hadn't he changed the beneficiary after everything that had happened? Was it an oversight? Or did some small, forgotten part of him still care? She dialed the number on the letterhead, her voice barely a whisper. The agent on the other end was kind and professional. "Yes, Ms. Martinez," he said. "We've been trying to reach you for almost a year. The policy is legitimate. The money was real." Her mind exploded with possibilities. A real house, with heating and a proper kitchen. College for Jake. She could finish her degree without worrying about every single penny. They could finally have security. But then, her gaze fell upon the life they had built. She looked at the string lights Jake had helped her hang, at his drawings on the wall, at the view of the endless green forest through the window. This tiny home in the trees was where they had found their peace, where they had healed. She realized they would stay. But now, it would be a choice, not a necessity. When Jake came home from school, he found her sitting quietly, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, why are you crying?" he asked, his voice full of concern. She pulled him into a hug, her heart overflowing. "Because, sweetie," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Sometimes life surprises you in the best ways." 6 months later, they still lived in the treehouse. But now, it had solar panels on the roof and proper insulation in the walls. A college fund was securely waiting for Jake. Sarah learned that starting over didn't mean erasing the past or leaving everything behind. Sometimes, the life you build from the wreckage is the one most worth keeping. And the greatest fortune isn't what arrives in the mail. It's just the peace and happiness you create with your own 2 hands. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that celebrates the strength of the human spirit.